You've spent years trying to feel confident before you act like you are gonna be. It's backwards and unintelligent, and it's the exact reason it's never actually worked for you. But today you will understand the whole system of it and unchain your self-form, expressing yourself naturally by just your own existence as fully as you want yourself to exist without being eaten by your own mind. You've built an entire personality around waiting to feel ready, and you've been calling the waiting patience, when it was actually just fear wearing a more respectable word. Every year you spent hoping the feeling would arrive first is a year you handed to a version of confidence that was never going to show up on its own, because it was never designed to show up first in the first place. Count what that's actually cost you, honestly, instead of glossing past it the way you usually do. Every version of you that stayed quiet in the room when you had the better answer. Every relationship that stalled because you waited for certainty before saying the true thing out loud. Every opportunity that went to someone less capable but more willing to act uncertain and do it anyway. None of that was bad luck. It was the direct, compounding cost of a strategy that was broken from the very first day you adopted it, and you adopted it so long ago you stopped noticing it was a strategy at all, it just started feeling like your personality. You've read the affirmations. You've stood in front of a mirror and said the sentence you were told to say. You've watched the videos that promise a mindset shift is all you're missing. And somewhere underneath all of it, you already know the truth you don't want to say out loud. None of it actually changed anything, because you were trying to manufacture a feeling instead of building the one thing that was ever going to produce it honestly. Here's what almost nobody tells you plainly. Confidence was never a feeling you generate first. It's a byproduct, built after the fact, from evidence, and if you've been chasing the feeling directly, you've been chasing a shadow instead of the thing that casts it. The psychologist Albert Bandura spent decades studying exactly this, and he called the real mechanism self-efficacy, a person's belief in their own capacity to handle what's in front of them. Bandura's research found something that should genuinely change how you think about this. Self-efficacy isn't built by encouragement, by hype, or by repeating a sentence in a mirror. It's built almost entirely by one thing, mastery experience. Actually doing the hard thing, successfully, with your own hands, and having your own brain register that it happened. Every other method, watching someone else do it, being told you can do it, imagining yourself doing it, works, but weakly, a distant second to the version where you simply did the thing and your nervous system was forced to update its file on you. This means the entire strategy you've probably been running is inverted. You've been waiting to feel confident before you attempt the hard conversation, the difficult decision, the thing that scares you. But confidence was never the prerequisite. It was always meant to be the result. You don't think your way into it. You act your way into it, deposit by deposit, whether you feel ready for the deposit or not. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire through a plague, a decade of war on the northern frontier, and betrayal from people he trusted, and he never once wrote about waiting to feel ready before doing what the day required of him. His private journal is full of the opposite instinct, reminders to simply do the next necessary thing, regardless of mood, because he understood something that modern psychology eventually caught up to: the feeling was never going to arrive first. The action had to come first, and the feeling, if it came at all, was only ever going to show up afterward, as evidence accumulated. Here's what's actively working against you while you wait for that feeling, and it's worth naming directly. Every scroll through a feed of other people's highlight reels is a fresh act of social comparison, and social comparison research has consistently found that people default to comparing themselves against targets who appear to be doing better, not worse, a pattern researchers call upward comparison. You're not just failing to build confidence in a vacuum. You're actively measuring your unfinished, unedited, real-time self against everyone else's finished highlight reel, dozens of times a day, and calling the resulting gap evidence about your own inadequacy instead of what it actually is, a comparison that was rigged against you before it even started. Diogenes the Cynic took this even further, in a stranger, more visible way. He lived in open poverty by choice, mocked by crowds, ridiculed publicly by people with far more status than he had, and by every account, it never once seemed to touch him. Not because he'd trained himself to ignore insults through sheer willpower, but because his sense of himself had never been built on what a crowd thought of him in the first place. There was nothing external to knock down, because nothing external had ever been holding it up. Seneca understood the specific trap of hesitation better than almost anyone in the ancient world, because he watched himself fall into it repeatedly and wrote about the fall with brutal honesty. He observed that most fear doesn't come from the actual danger in front of a person, it comes from the endless rehearsal beforehand, the imagined failure played on a loop until it feels more real than anything that's actually happened yet. Every extra day you spend hesitating isn't neutral. It's a day spent rehearsing the failure in vivid detail while the actual opportunity to prove yourself wrong keeps sitting there, untouched, waiting for you to stop performing the fear and finally test it. This is the exact distinction modern psychology names when it studies why some confidence collapses instantly and some doesn't. Researchers Jennifer Crocker and Laura Park spent years studying what they called contingent self-worth, a sense of value that depends entirely on external conditions being met. Approval, achievement, appearance, being right in an argument. The research is consistent and a little unforgiving. The more your confidence depends on a specific external condition, the more fragile it actually is, no matter how solid it feels while the condition is being met. Confidence built this way isn't wrong to feel. It's just borrowed, and everything borrowed eventually comes due. Here's the part that should land uncomfortably, because it's meant to. If your confidence disappears the moment someone criticizes you, disagrees with you, or simply doesn't respond the way you hoped, that's not proof you're not confident. It's proof of exactly what your confidence has secretly been resting on the entire time. The collapse isn't the problem. It's the diagnostic. It's telling you precisely where the foundation actually was, as opposed to where you assumed it was. There's a specific, well-documented experience that grows directly out of this borrowed foundation, and you've almost certainly felt it even if you've never had the exact name for it: imposter syndrome. The persistent sense that any success you've had was luck, timing, or other people simply not looking closely enough yet, and that eventually, they will. Psychologists have studied this extensively since the 1970s, and one consistent finding cut straight to the point of this video: imposter syndrome thrives specifically in people whose achievements were never converted into internal evidence. They did the hard thing. They succeeded. But because the success got attributed to circumstance instead of their own capacity, no deposit was actually made. The mastery experience happened, and somehow still didn't count, because the credit got routed somewhere else before it could land. This is why some people can rack up genuine accomplishments for years and still feel exactly as unstable as they did at the beginning. Accomplishment alone isn't the mechanism. Attribution is. You have to actually let the win count as evidence about you, not about luck, not about the situation being unusually easy, not about anyone else's generosity, or the deposit never clears, no matter how many times you make it. And here's the darker cousin of that pattern, the one you might not want to look at directly. Psychologists call it self-handicapping, the deliberate, often unconscious act of sabotaging your own effort in advance, specifically so that if you fail, you have a ready-made excuse that protects your ego from the real verdict. Staying up too late before the interview. Barely preparing for the exam so a bad grade can be blamed on the lack of preparation instead of a lack of ability. Starting the important project 2 days before the deadline, on purpose, so a rushed result never has to be judged as your actual best work. If any part of that just landed uncomfortably close to home, sit with it instead of rushing past it. Self-handicapping feels like protection. It's actually the single most efficient way to guarantee the mastery experience you desperately need never gets the chance to happen. You're not protecting your confidence. You're strangling the only process that was ever going to build it. Epictetus, born into slavery and later becoming one of the most influential teachers in the ancient world, built his entire philosophy around a single, unglamorous distinction: sort what's actually within your control from what never was. Your actions, your effort, your judgment, yours, completely. Other people's opinions, their approval, whether they're impressed, never yours, no matter how much energy you spend trying to manage them. He wasn't offering comfort. He was offering an audit. Most of what people call a confidence problem is actually a control problem, energy spent trying to secure something that was never available to be secured in the first place. Think about how much of your actual life has been spent managing a thing you never controlled to begin with. Rehearsing how something might be received before you've even said it. Softening a true statement until it's unrecognizable, just to control a reaction that was never yours to guarantee in the first place. Choosing silence over a real answer because you couldn't stand the risk of someone thinking less of you for it. None of that energy was ever wasted by accident. It was wasted, specifically, on a category of outcome that was never on the table for you to control, no matter how skillfully you managed your side of it. So here's what actually builds the real version, not the performed one, starting today. First, stop rehearsing the feeling and start making deposits. Pick one small, genuinely uncomfortable action, a real conversation you've been avoiding, a piece of work you've been sitting on, a boundary you haven't set, and do it specifically because it's uncomfortable, not once you no longer feel nervous about it. The nervousness isn't a stop sign. It's the exact condition mastery experience requires to register at all. Comfortable actions barely move the needle. Bandura's research is clear about this. The deposits that count are the ones you were genuinely unsure you could pull off until you did. Second, audit where your current confidence is actually resting. Sit down and honestly ask yourself what would happen to your sense of self if the compliment stopped, if the achievement disappeared, if the specific person whose approval you've been chasing simply stopped responding. If the answer is that your confidence would collapse along with it, you've just located exactly where the real work needs to happen, not because the collapse proves you're broken, but because it just showed you, with total accuracy, where the foundation actually is. Third, stop treating criticism and rejection as verdicts on your worth, and start treating them as information, nothing more. Epictetus's entire discipline comes down to this single move, separating what happened from your judgment about what it means. Someone disagreeing with you is a fact. I am not good enough is a story you attach to the fact, voluntarily, and you're allowed to detach it just as voluntarily. The event doesn't carry the meaning. You do. Which means you're also the only one who can take the meaning back. Fourth, when something actually goes well, resist the automatic urge to hand the credit away. Notice the reflex, I got lucky, they were just being nice, anyone could have done that, and specifically counter it, deliberately, even if it feels uncomfortable or arrogant at first. This isn't about inflating yourself. It's about making sure the deposit actually clears instead of quietly getting rerouted back to circumstance the way it always has been. You did the thing. Let that fact stay attached to you, not to the weather that day. One more thing worth knowing before you start, because it will happen and it shouldn't derail you when it does. The moment you stop performing fake confidence and start actually building the real thing, expect resistance, from other people, and from yourself, and neither reaction means you're on the wrong track. Some people around you got comfortable with the version of you that hesitated, that deferred, that needed reassurance before moving. When that version stops showing up, don't be surprised by a short, sharp spike in pushback before it settles, questions about why you're different now, subtle pressure to go back to asking permission you no longer need. That spike isn't proof you're doing something wrong. It's proof the old pattern is finally breaking, and it always gets loud right before it goes quiet for good. You are not required to feel ready before you act. You are never going to feel ready first, nobody ever has, not the people you admire, not the ones whose confidence looks effortless from the outside. What you're seeing when you watch someone who seems unshakable isn't the absence of fear. It's a longer track record of proof that they can act anyway, and that record didn't build itself while they were waiting to feel like starting. Stop waiting for permission from a feeling that was never going to grant it. You are enough to start before you feel ready. Say it again, out loud if you have to, until it stops sounding like a slogan and starts sounding like the only accurate description of how every confident person you've ever admired actually got there, not by feeling ready first, but by refusing to let the absence of readiness be the final word. Comment the one uncomfortable thing you've been waiting to feel confident enough to do, not the version you'll do once you feel ready, the real one, sitting there right now, the one you've been quietly avoiding naming even to yourself. Naming it here is the first deposit. If this reached something real in you, subscribe. This is the quiet revolution this channel exists to build, not performed confidence, not borrowed certainty, just real evidence, collected one uncomfortable action at a time, until the feeling finally catches up to what you've already proven. I'll see you in the next one.